I have a super cool guest tonight. Her name is Kody, and she is with Homestead Education. So welcome. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. The reason that I reached out to you to come on, which doesn't happen a lot because people are always messaging me like, I homeschool, I want to tell my story, and it's so cool. But my husband actually sent me one of your ads on Facebook, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. She has curriculum about homesteading, and like, I want to know how to homestead. Like, I fake it right now. I have a couple chickens, and I'm surprised they're still alive, but that's my homestead. That's the extent of it.
You know what? We had 3 sows go into labor last night. I'm faking it most of the time too.
3 what went into labor?
3 sows.
I don't know what that means.
Pigs. We had 3 pigs in labor last night. So
goodness, I'm from the city. So really true.
yeah, so this morning we had 26 piglets and 2 of them farrowed in pasture. And so me and my kids are like, have them in a wagon and we're like taking the babies up the hill so mommy will follow. And
oh my goodness. So do you help with the delivery?
If they need it, a lot of times they don't. We raise heritage pigs, so they have better mothering instincts.
So you're telling me you don't have to give them Pitocin and epidurals and then a C-section at the end?
No, well, you know what? I did have one pig that I was afraid she wasn't done yet and she was up and moving around, so I gave her some oxytocin to make sure she was healthy and got her placenta out.
No. That's exciting. So, okay. You homeschool as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How long have you been first homesteading, and then we'll get into the homeschooling?
It's kind of like one of those like loaded questions because I grew up on a cattle ranch.
Okay. I did
But we were
not.
always really modern. You know, I grew up in California, but I mean, in the mountains, cattle ranch. My dad was a hunting guide, so rural life was really natural for me. But I was an ag major and worked in commercial ag for 10 years. And then my husband got diagnosed with end-stage liver disease and was told he had a year to live. And we were only in our early 30s.
God.
Yeah, and after a sobbing call to the VA doctor, he finally, probably just to get me off the phone, told me that if we lived a healthier lifestyle, it might improve his quality of life. So we sold everything and bought a farm and started growing all of our own food. And it's been 8 years and he has a fully healed liver.
Oh my gosh. Like,
isn't that amazing?
How do you even get, well, yes, the liver regenerates, right? So like
well, his was end stage with the like scarring and everything. So they were like, good luck, lady. Like, just get off the phone with me.
Wow. And I mean, just that wasn't the first thing that they said to you. Hey,
No.
change what you're eating. Look at what chemicals are, what hormones, what's injected into the food you're eating. That wasn't even part of the process. It was just like, have fun the last year you're alive here. And then not
pretty
until
much.
you've been
And then they even
depleted.
told him to go on like a low-fat diet and stuff, which, you know, over the years, we have learned that that's the exact opposite of what we should have done. Yeah. And we're to the point now where we eat home, you know, we cook everything in home rendered lard and our cholesterol is down 250 points a piece.
Wow. Okay, so you grew up kind of rurally, but how long ago was that now? Eight years ago?
So 8 years ago is when we said, well, let's figure out how to do all of this.
How did homeschooling blend in with all that?
Well, right around that same time, we had a couple of kids who were having problems in school, and we have 6 kids. So the couple older ones were in junior high. We have some younger ones that were struggling too. And it was such a stress trying to learn a whole new lifestyle while dealing with issues at the school. So we're like, we had a friend who was homeschooling. She's like, why don't you just try it? You can do it through a charter. If you don't like it, you can go back in the fall. And my husband and I were like, we don't want to spend all day with our children. We were like those people. Now I look back on it and go, how would I feel if my husband said he didn't want to spend all day with me?
Yes, so true.
Yeah. So we pulled him out and we started muddling through it. And of course, we did it all wrong for the first few years. But
trying
we would
to
never
replicate school at home and everyone's fighting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I get it. I'm still guilty.
We thought they were going back back, we thought this was just to spend some extra time together if my husband didn't make it. And so we're like, okay, we'll just do school at home while we're doing it together. And we tried to replicate
Yeah.
school. And one of our children has like severe ADHD and ODD, and that was a nightmare. So we've learned.
What is ODD? I know I've OCD I'm familiar with.
ODD is oppositional defiance disorder,
Oh.
which means he will go against like authority figures, um, and any social norms.
So
Like I
he's an
can't get the guy to wear tennis
anarchist.
shoes. Like I can't get the guy to wear tennis shoes. He wears cowboy boots all the
So does my
time.
son. And I live in New York.
Well, you're in upstate, so you know.
Oh my gosh, but it's so funny because yes, I used to say that too. Like, one, I don't even know if I want kids. Two, if I have them, I'm not even going to send them to private school, let alone homeschool was never on the table. But
Right?
yeah, it was like, who wants to spend that much time with your kids? And then now that I am home with them all day, I'm like, oh my God, this is what and my daughter, I've been home with her since she was born. I'm like, this is what I
Aw.
missed when he was in daycare at her age. And it's cool because I got to see both sides, but at the same time, it makes me sad because there's people that don't ever realize it, and it's not their fault. Society literally tells you you should be in a job if you want to if you want to contribute to society or pay more taxes. But yeah, it's that's really sad. So I'm actually writing an ebook right now, and I have a chapter on like homeschooling children with special needs and how wonderful homeschooling is for that.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Can you get into that a little bit?
Um, yeah, I mean, learning on the homestead, everything is hands-on. And that's been the best way for us when we really like went all in. We are growing all of our own food. I had to base all of our lessons around what we were doing on the farm because otherwise I wouldn't have time for both. And my one with ODD, which I actually have some younger ones with autism and dyslexia and stuff, like my husband are yours, mine, and ours. And that's kind of what drew us to each other is we were both struggling as single parents raising neurodivergent kids.
Okay.
So we're doing everything hands on. The kids are really getting it. But our one with ODD, oh man, he hates school, hated school. I don't know, you want to say he's 20 now, but he would sit at the table and pretend to do his lessons. And like at the end of the day, hand them all to us. And we're like, there's nothing written down. And he's like, oh, you must have erased it.
So, and at
Yeah, sure.
this point, he's like almost a teenager.
Yeah, he's like 15. We're like, oh my gosh, like do you really think that I took the time to erase all your work? That's not how I want to spend my afternoons. So he asked if he could get a job. And my husband and I, we had this rule that you can't get your driver's license and stuff like that if you don't have at least a B average. Because we figure if you're homeschooled, if you're not getting at least B's, like we're trying to build a foundation. And so he started working for our neighbor. And when it was time to start school in the fall, he's like, I don't want to come back. Like, I don't want to do school anymore. And my husband and I talked about it and we're like, well, I mean, in Idaho, we don't have a lot of homeschool laws. So why don't you take a semester off? We'll call it work experience and see how it goes. And he goes, well, with that, if I save up all my own money to take driver's ed, to get my, insurance, pay for my own phone, get a car, do I have to still get good grades? And we're like, prove us, prove it to us. This kid not only like he started working full time, he saved up the money and bought himself like his dream truck. He got his driver's license. Did all the steps and then was so good at his job. Somebody else like hired him to be an electrician's apprentice. And now at 20 years old, he makes 50 something dollars an hour and is the foreman on the job site.
Wow. I mean, that gives me chills because that
Mm-hmm.
just goes to show you, yes, like how much you can give your child, how many opportunities if they get outside the system. And I think just people don't realize it. Like, oh, are you going to sit there with them when they're 16, 17, 18, reading from a curriculum book to them? Like, no, it doesn't have to be like
No.
that. And Yeah, you're not the only person I talked to. Actually, in my ebook, I was just writing because Elijah Stanfield was on my
Mm,
podcast. He illustrated for the Tuttle Twins, or illustrates for the Tuttle Twins,
yeah.
and he
He
said, "Yeah,
actually just interviewed us for the magazine.
did you? Yeah."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah, my son at 16 was like, yeah, I want to get into music. I want to, kind of step away from the schoolwork and get into the music." And he was like, "Okay, but how are you going to afford the instruments, the recording time, and all that?" And so he started, his son started drawing some illustrations, making some money, paying for everything himself. And it's like, that's
Awesome.
teaching you real world stuff that I
Hmm.
didn't get in school.
Oh, yeah. And we still, I knew, 15, 16 years old, he's still our kid, and we still need to make sure that he's getting what he needs. And so I would kind of construct scenarios where we had to do a little extra learning. Some call it strewing, but basically I got a book on how to build homestead projects. And I was like, hey, Wyatt, I need some trellises built and I don't have time for it. So next thing I know, he's out there like, how many do you want? Oh, I want 3. And so he's having to like do the math and read through the book. And he's in the kitchen with me, like leaning over the counter, like working it all out with me. And I'm like, yeah, we just did a math lesson and you didn't even know it.
And that's how it should be, honestly, because when you're teaching a kid something, you've got math, and then eh, reading a separate block, writing a separate block, history a separate block. And it's like they can all intertwine and they can all center around something that your kid actually loves, like
Hmm.
trucks or dinosaurs or building, how electricity works. You can work so much into that. And I understand, like, it is hard to conceptualize, like, okay, that sounds wonderful, how does that actually get implemented? Because that's like so much research right there. But I feel like it does kind of naturally flow once you're in it. And you kind of, and just nowadays with the internet and the AI and all that stuff
Oh, yeah.
out there, you're never alone.
You're not, no. I tell a lot of people, they'll even with recipes or something like that, and they're like, well, how do I cook like you? I'm like, you don't need me to walk you all the way through it. You can Google everything and just do it. Just jump in and do it. And I think that's actually the biggest disconnect as to why I started teaching the way I do, is because we weren't taught all these things. And I say we, like our generation. And so not only are we afraid to learn them, we're definitely afraid to teach them.
So how important is it that we know how to not just homestead, but how to grow our own food, how to find clean
Mhm.
water? I mean, many people in school today probably don't even know that their food in some way, shape, or form came from someone's farm,
Right.
let alone how to find water if they needed to.
Well, like how far down the conspiracy rabbit hole do you want me to go? But
I mean, I go pretty far, but I don't want to get banned on Instagram either.
right.
Far enough to
So,
keep me still on Instagram's happy side.
I think just kind of you have to look at the fact that even 5 years ago, we couldn't get some of these things, that literally our supply chain shut down. This can happen. This isn't a conspiracy theorist thing. This isn't a crazy prepper thing or a crunchy mom or whatever label you want to put on it. This is a real thing that could happen.
Mhm.
And it's even just as simple as where we live in North Idaho, and you may even deal with some of this in upstate New York, is we get several feet of snow and sometimes can lose power for days on end.
Mhm.
So just understanding those basics.
Right.
Uh,
Yes, the Maui fires, the hurricane in
hmm.
North Carolina. I mean, any of
Yeah.
that could happen to any of us, or even another country invading, or
Hmm.
our own country. The aliens coming down. They could say anything literally, and we would just be at their FEMA's mercy. So I think that's been like my new thing.
Hmm.
Like, I just don't want my kids dependent on FEMA if they don't have to be. And it's so
Right.
important too to teach our kids
Because
this
actually,
stuff.
who's saving you is like the hillbillies on horses coming in from behind, because they're the ones that have been doing this stuff their whole lives.
Yes. And we saw that during the hurricanes in North Carolina, from what
Hmm.
people were showing on Instagram and whatnot. But yeah, and not only is it, it's like, okay, even if my child doesn't need it in his lifetime or her lifetime, okay,
Mhm.
how do I know that their kids and their kids and their kids won't need to know some sort of survival information? Survival, just how to find food, how to like
Yep.
hunt, like process an animal that they've hunted or grow something. I mean, that's huge. We in one generation, we've just thrown up our hands and said, oh, the government's going to handle it. I don't have to worry about it. We're pretty ignorant to think that that's okay. You know, we've got kids and grandkids and great
Yeah,
grandkids to think about.
I tell people that a lot. Like, we need to opt out of relying on the systems,
Yeah.
because we have this like a severed cord of generational sustainability that was just passed down from years and years and years. And suddenly, I don't know what, 75 years ago, our grandmothers were like, I would rather have an electric vacuum than learn how to cook. And our children, I mean, and I say our children colloquially, like they don't know how to do anything. And I mean, that same anxiety that we are feeling about that, they're feeling it
Yeah.
too. So, I mean, like, just start. If you don't know it, learn it, and learn it in front of them, because they're going to see you. I don't know how to do that. Let's figure it out.
Yeah. Right, because I don't know any of it. I got Joel Salatin's book. So, you know, we're kind of like, I'm not that there yet. Like my husband keeps telling me, like, you can't handle taking care of the chickens that we have. So we're not adding like sheep and goats and cows to this mix yet.
Well, and Joel Salatin's a great one, because he gets you like he's the fire and brimstone of the homesteading world. You're like, I'm going to do this because this is all messed up. And
Yeah, and it gets into like we know nothing about the soil or anything. I never
Mhm.
learned about that stuff in school. I worked for the government for 16 years and I had this one crazy I had many crazy bosses, but I had this one crazy boss. And then now that I look back on it, I'm like, oh my gosh, she was right about so many things. She was senile as all hell. Nobody liked this lady, but I look back and I remember her saying to me, well, the soil has no nutrients in it, so it doesn't even matter if you're eating, you know, your apples or whatever you grow. The soil has no nutrients, and I'm like, at that time I was like, all right. But now that I'm like watching documentaries on it, I attended a
Mhm.
conference a couple weeks ago with Del Bigtree was at it, and I'm like, wow, I didn't even know about any of this, about how we should be, you know, what we should be putting in our soil, composting and stuff. I never composted. I didn't know that was
Mhm.
a thing. We compost now, and we get the little steps that I've taken over the last couple of years. We get I don't have a cow or pig myself, but I'll get them butchered from the local farms or local butchers.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's at least local and it had a decent life. It wasn't, you know, bred
Mhm.
for
Oh, you know what? I raise 300 hogs a year, and they all get head
oh.
scratches in the morning. So
And that makes a difference actually in the end product of the bacon that you eat. Can you talk about that
pigs
at all? Like,
are really, yeah, pigs are really sustainable to stress. And there's actually a gene that is in some commercial lines of pigs that if they get too stressed, they either die or all of the water will come out of their meat after they're butchered.
interesting.
So, there's a lot of people that are just like, happier pigs are healthier. But I'm like, there's a whole like physiological thing happening with pigs, that if they're too stressed, it actually changes the meat that's
And,
on your plate.
and probably like cortisol levels too. And then what you're
Hmm.
consuming as, you know, the consumer, you're
Yeah.
getting that, right?
Hmm. Absolutely. And the pigs that are raised in confinement operations, their meat is lower in vitamin D because they're not converting it through their skin like we do. So pigs that are raised out in the sun, their meat has higher levels of vitamin D in it. If you're doing heritage meats, it's still marbled. It doesn't have all the fat bred out of it, so you're getting a like more nutritious with your like linoleic acids and things like that.
Marbled is better.
Marbled, like when you get like a beef steak and there's the lines of fat through it,
Okay.
that's what marbled is. And so most pork, because when they lied to everybody and told us that fat was bad for us back in the 50s, all the pork had the fat bred out of it over several
Oh
years.
my goodness.
But the heritage breeds of pork never went into that commercial line of breeding. So they still have all the fat in their meat. And I mean, you can taste the difference, let alone the health benefits of it.
Interesting. So can you give me a rundown of what your day looks like? You've got 6 kids, but some of them have graduated.
Yeah.
How many you have left in your homeschooling, like, world, and what your day looks like on average?
Yeah. So we have 4 still at home, 2 16-year-olds, 7-year-old and a 5-year-old. I had to think for a second. The 5-year-old's a little feral, so I think our animals are a little bit more domesticated than he is. But this kid is like, he's a full-time job. But yeah, we get up in the morning and our teenage son gets up and goes and feeds the pigs and milks the cows for our micro dairy. And we sell our raw milk here in Idaho. And we also, we have like 12 breeding animals right now, and on our pig herd. So, I mean, we have, like I said, 26 piglets were born last night. Um, while he's up doing that, my daughter gets up and she kind of starts the morning routine in the house. And so she's like helping getting the little boys up and starting coffee. My son comes in with the milk. We all kind of jump in at that point because as a business owner, I have to get up and, start answering emails right away. So I get up and I'm doing that and I'm, working with her, helping with the littles. My son comes in and we all hop in and start processing the milk for the store or, cleaning out jars to make and getting the cream for making butter and making cheese and whatever it is we're going to do for the day. And then, from that point, my husband's a firefighter and he has PTSD, so his sleep schedule is a little off. So when he gets up, we all head out and start doing whatever farm chores need to be done. So that's rotating pastures, fixing things, doctoring somebody, whatever it is we need to do, not just the regular everyday feeding, because that kind of falls on the teenager. Our 8 or 7-year-old goes with him a lot because he's old enough to be doing a lot of that. And we kind of say, like, if they're old enough to walk and talk, they're old enough to follow instructions and help. So our kids start young.
So important.
And I mean, huh?
So important.
It is, yeah. And they're so self-sufficient. Like, we can leave for conferences and the teenagers can completely run our farm without us. And I trust them. I know that everybody's safe because they make good choices and they're handling what they need to do. Because we have like a trust from being partners in working on like the farm together, and they're on the fire department with my husband, and just everything we do is together.
I love that. You know what I love about this is they all have a purpose in their day. Because I think
Mm-hmm.
that that's been stripped from us. I don't think I know that that's been
Yeah.
stripped from us. Just like we were talking about we don't have to find food, water, or shelter anymore. We just are kind of, at least in
Mm-hmm.
the US, fairly comfortable
Exactly.
here. And you can get Uber to or whatever, bring food to your door,
Yeah.
Amazon to bring you a new outfit tomorrow or whatever. Um, there's really no like survival purpose in our
Well, they
body.
actually say there's that like teenagers have anxiety because they have zero
Yeah,
purpose,
I think that's
and that I mean I'm sure is going into probably even all the way up to our generation, just not knowing what we're supposed to be doing with our time and with our day.
Oh, you hit the nail on the head right there. Because I always felt that way. Like, they tell you when you have to be in school, when you have to switch classes, when you can
Mm-hmm.
go home, oh, okay, I want to do this extracurricular. Okay, well, it's 5 days a week, 3 hours a day. It's like, geez, all right, well, I just wanted to enjoy a little bit. But, and then your weekends are filled with whatever else you're into, or this birthday party, or that family event. And it's like, how much time do you really get to just be by yourself and think, like, what
Yeah.
do I like to do? And even as an adult, I went to college. It was like, I don't know, I'll just keep switching my major till something fits. And
Right.
then I got a job working for government because that's what my parents did. And even in government work, I was like, okay, well, this is nice because even if I don't like the job I'm doing, I could transfer to a different unit or a different department, different agency, and find that thing. And I found after 16 years and 4 different agencies, there's never any work to do and never purposeful. And people like, I'm sure my coworkers hate me for that. Yeah, you might have a job that you're busy in, but if you left tomorrow, nobody's life would change. So, how important
Yeah.
is the work that you're doing?
Exactly. And I mean, just what we do with our hands. And I mean, just it's such a, like when you're just sitting there doing busy work, just the same thing over and over again until it's 5 o'clock and you clock out. How do you go home and feel like you've accomplished anything?
Yeah.
Where the amount of work we do with our hands, and when we have a finished product at the end of the day, a finished product at, the end of season or whatever it is that we're doing, and we live with the seasons and we eat with the seasons, and like our bodies are just more in tune to how we were meant to live on this earth.
Yes. That's so important. And again, it's just so overlooked. And I really think like knowing that I can get up, like right now I get up at 4:30 in the morning because I want to work on my podcast and work on the Instagram. And so it's like, okay, what can I do now? Can I work on an ebook? Yeah, I can do that. Oh, can I make a curriculum? Oh, let's do that. So let's get into that because that's initially how I
Yep.
found you. So you not
Mhm.
only have a homestead and have a store, but you also created the curriculum about how to have a homestead and like live survival skills. That's so awesome.
Yep.
All right, because
Um,
I want to get it all. I want to do it all with my kids. My son's in a wilderness class right now. He loves it.
oh,
So
fun.
yeah. How did you come about with all your free time creating
Oh my
curriculums?
Um, well, when I actually started writing, I was working in real estate and I was really bored in my office all the time. And then I had a baby that stayed up all night, so I never slept anyways. Might as well use my time wisely. Um, but yeah, when we started homeschooling, my first thought was kind of, I have no clue what I'm doing, but there's a homeschool curriculum for everything, so I'll get one on um agriculture and we will learn agriculture together, and that'll be a really great way for me to be able to like learn to homeschool while teaching a subject that I like deeply understand. And there wasn't one. And I was so disappointed. Like, how is there not a homeschool curriculum on agriculture? Food is literally humanity's most driving force, and yet nobody knows how to do it, nor are there ways to teach it unless you go through public school ag program.
And they're probably
Like that
not
doesn't,
teaching you what you really need to know there either.
I mean, they're teaching, commercial agriculture as a vocation, which has its place, but that's not those true skills. And nobody wants to take home ec because they think it's just learning how to be a housewife. And that's
Right.
not the case either. So that's why, I mean, I'll get there, but so I started just building lessons for my kids at all ages and like make it work for each of them. I learned about Canva, so I was making little worksheets for the kids and stuff. And I was driving to work one day and I was listening to another podcast, and she had a gal on who was talking about, she lived on a farm, but she was trying to be like a fashion blogger and wasn't really getting a lot of people. And she ended up designing a stamp for their wedding that she started selling on Etsy, and it blew up so much. And she was in like Southern Living magazine, and that right then it like clicked for me. I don't know what it was, like I'm not talking about stamps or Southern Living magazine, but it clicked. You need to write this curriculum because other people want this information. And considering I worked in food safety and like quality assurance for years, literally my job was to write like how to's on how to do everything in the food plants. So I was like, I can just take that skill and my love for agriculture. And I mean, I have my bachelor's in animal science, so it's not that I don't know these things. And I had to like relearn when we started homesteading because there were so many things that I was like, I know I'm supposed to worm cows, but can I worm a dairy cow? And I don't even know where to start. So I had to relearn a lot of stuff. And yeah, it just clicked. And I came home and I'm like, honey, I have an amazing idea. And usually he's like, oh, I don't think we need to know about it. And I told him, and he's like, that's a great idea. Get in your chair. He brought me my laptop and a glass of iced tea. And I wrote my first curriculum, like just a little kid's book that weekend, just to see if I could do it. And it turned out so good that I wrote the next part and then I launched it. And then people started asking, like, do you have something for high school? And I was like, well, I mean, that's what I've got to do next, because that's where I get into that really like brass tacks science and the homesteading part together. And I had a blast writing it. It was probably it's like my most favorite thing I've probably ever done in my entire life. Because it was being able to teach something that matters so much to me. and know that it was a value to other people. And I mean, it has blown up. It is, and I call it homestead science because my thought with it is it's agriculture science and like home economics together, like learning on like in a small scale way with self-sufficiency. And I mean, I've sold it in 5 countries. It is in public schools, it's in private schools, charter schools, co-ops, families everywhere. I mean, I have been so blessed to be able to like be a part of this community and share what I have in a way that even people who understand what they're doing don't always know how to teach it in that
Right.
same way. And that's been where we've gone over the last few years.
Wow, I love that. So, okay, give me a just brief, like my son's 6 and I have a 2-year-old. What would a curriculum for him look like? Like how much of the year would it take up? How much of the day? And what types of stuff would he be learning?
So my homestead science for 6-year-olds is called Build Your Own Homestead, and it comes with a poster that it's kind of a little bit of a story to it, but I was so tired of like kids science curriculums just being art projects for busy work. But with that age kid, you don't really want them outside like giving shots to the neighbor's bull. So you kind of have to balance that. So it comes with a huge poster, a 2x3 poster with the outlines of a farm on it. And every day they learn about something on the homestead. And once they learn about it, they have a cutout or they get to go find something to add to their homestead. And so it takes all year for them to build it. So they have that long term like satisfaction and they're learning quality of character, they're learning animal husbandry, how food and the world kind of like fits together. And then I have one that goes with that for slightly older kids that gives a whole bunch of science and sociology behind each thing that they're doing.
Oh,
So
sociology with
instead of,
that. Wow.
yeah, so like a 5 or 6 year old, they're just excited to put a homestead, like to put a barn on their homestead. Like homesteads have barns, and I'm so excited that I got to learn about barns. But the older kids will learn why there's cross pieces for structural integrity, why barns were historically red. They make their own homemade red paint. Like, so it's kind of, they get a little history, like why things are like that in their world. You learn a little bit of chemistry because of the oxidation of the iron in the paint back in the days is what made the paint red.
Well,
And it just makes their whole worlds kind of like come
I
together.
love that. And I love that part about homeschooling. That's been kind of a recent realization for me. Everything blends. It does not have to be like,
Hmm.
this is our reading section, this is our writing. It all
Yeah.
blends in together over a topic or a theme that interests your child. And once they realize, like anybody, like we all eat food, we all have to eat food. So once
Yeah.
you realize that this is all, I mean, even I was talking yesterday, or on Monday, I interviewed a woman. She owned a chain of vegan restaurants in LA and
Mm.
is now a cattle rancher. So,
You would not believe how many people like that I meet.
but yeah, she was talking all about like how, basically what's in everything that we have to be. I forgot why I even went into that, but I do just love this concept. Like we have to understand where our food comes from and why. I mean, even my
Mhm.
sister's family, it's like they're like eating the Ritz crackers and the goldfish off, and I'm like, I don't know what's in there. Ah! I used to do that too. Now I try to be better at, okay, do
We
you want
kind
a
of have
snack?
like,
Hmm.
if we're on a road trip, we can have fruit snacks. If we're home, like that's not something we're buying at the grocery store and bringing home?
Well, it's funny because yes, we're going to Mystic, Connecticut tomorrow, and so we went to Aldi's, and I let them pick out like bags of snacks. So they're like, "Oh my god, we get snacks! Vacation's awesome!" Because normally I'm like, "Just eat some cashews or here's some cheese."
Right? Well, I went to my doctor recently and she was like, I'm so thankful for what you're doing, Kody. She's like, because I have so many young moms coming in just like just having like anxiety saying, I don't even know what to feed my
Yeah.
kids. Like what is safe for them anymore? I mean, when they're literally every day on the news, every day on social media, they're telling us something else is basically poisoning us from the ground up. And so, it's all about moderation. There's good, better, and best, which is, good is fed, best is like straight off the farm. And don't try to recreate commercial foods at
Oh,
home. Like I have so many people that are like, well, how do I make a fruit snack? I'm like, I don't know. I don't feed them to my kids.
bad
Like,
for their
and they
teeth
don't get them at
anyway.
home either. Right. Like my kids are super excited to take like a scoop of homemade jam and put it over their cottage cheese or and it's raw cottage cheese. So that's just what it's, you have to like change your way of looking
Yeah.
at food.
And that's it. It's like you have to learn how to eat to live, not
Yeah.
live to eat. And yes, because we're so bored in life, it's like, oh, let's just grab the Doritos, let's grab the,
Yeah.
but it's like, no, how does this nourish me? And in what way? And if I have this, I'm going to feel sluggish tomorrow. And I'm going to,
Hmm.
your whole microbiome and all that jazz. And none of us are perfect. Like it's taking years for me, and we still have, they've never had McDonald's, but we still went out to the pizza place yesterday and had lunch there. My
Yeah.
daughter was so funny. Every bite, this is so good. This is so good. Like you're like an ad for this place right now. But yeah, like you said, the moderation too. I mean, so that you're not, because here's another realization I had. You can send your kid to school with all the organic food that you want, and most schools now have free lunches and breakfasts that they offer to every child so that nobody feels discriminated against. And while
Which
that's,
is like
yes,
straight sugar Kellogg's for
yes,
breakfast. And
and
yeah.
while that's lovely, your child can throw away their organic food that you made for them and spent all this money on and have the nachos, the bagels, the cream cheese, everything's
Mhm.
loaded with red dye 40 and everything else under the sun. And like, I get it. Like, I'm so glad that RFK Jr. is banning some of this stuff, but we have to realize we don't need a politician to ban it. We just have to stop buying it because they'll go out of business if we all realize what they've
Mhm.
been poisoning us with.
Yeah, I mean, what are they replacing it with? I mean, I just kind of look at it that way.
True.
If, I always say, like, don't eat something that is like more than 5 steps away from God. Like,
I
you
like,
know, so that's, you can, just looking at like a burger, like you have to butcher the cow, you have to, process the meat, you have to grind it, and then you have to freeze it, and then you have to cook it. There's 5 steps right there. So if you kind of like use that as a really like as your like at the end of the day, I want that to be my average,
mhm.
then you're eating a lot cleaner.
Yeah. Well, but a lot of kids today, I would think, and some people my age wouldn't even know those steps to getting meat. Like, what do
Yeah,
you mean? Where
true.
does it come from? What? Because there are still times that I will say like the wrong animal that the food I'm eating is from, and my husband's like, "Oh my God."
Well, you can one good way is if there's ingredients on the back and it's more than, things that you could go buy individually in the store, then like there's so many things like I can't go buy like sorbitol in the store. So
Very true. Yeah. They put, yes, if you can't pronounce it and you don't know what it means, you probably shouldn't be taking it. But that's hard because it doesn't leave you with much. So it's like, okay, what do we eat? Can your kids eat
and
nuts, fruits, berries, but
that's
then
where you have
even,
to look at
yeah,
it differently, because everybody always talks about like healthy food is more expensive. It's really not, it's just more work. So
mhm,
the same amount of money that you could spend by going into the store and buying a whole chicken and herbs and vegetables and a bag of flour and that type of stuff, yeah, you could buy some chicken strips or whatever for less than that. But if you take that home, a whole chicken can feed my family for a couple of meals plus 2 gallons of broth.
I love that you said that because yes, I just bought like 20 whole chickens from the farm around the corner, which I didn't know you could do.
Yeah,
But yes, he called me. He's like, I'm butchering them Sunday. Can you come pick them up? I was like, sure. I was like, will they fit
nice.
in my car? I don't even know. So I picked up the 20 chickens. There's blood sitting all. But And I was always going to
My
ask, can
kids
I
help
bring,
butcher,
I was like,
so
can I bring my 6-year-old to come watch you butcher them? But then I was like, we'll wait till next year. But
yeah,
yeah, so now, so okay, those, if you buy them in bulk, like anything over 10 at a time, I think it was $16 a chicken. Okay, so now I got a $16 chicken.
that's
Um,
cheap. Yeah.
and so I'll make a chicken once or twice a week. My husband will take it for lunches. Yeah, we'll have the one meal with
Mhm.
it, and my husband will take it for lunches. Or if I make it just for us, we'll have it for 2 nights for dinner. And the next night you can have like put it in. Sorry. The next night you can put it in your burritos or whatnot. But and then
Mhm.
so the chicken broth. So then I started making things like rice instead of with water. Make it with chicken broth or a mac and cheese instead of using
And that's
water.
got
Chicken broth.
collagen in it and electrolytes and
So
like all these things that your body
yes.
needs.
So now I was buying organic chicken broth for like $6 for, 4 cups. Now I can make it from the $16 chicken and
You
it gives me
basically make it for free with your
yes.
scraps. Yeah.
And so that's been so cool. I tried to drink it yesterday. I was like, let me drink this broth and see if I could switch coffee. And I was like, no, we still need coffee.
Yeah, you know what though? I do love warm broth. Like I just put a little extra salt in it and like I can sip on that. Like I used to take it to work with me sometimes because coffee makes me sick to
Oh.
my stomach. And so I would take broth sometimes and drink it at work. And I one time I walked out to a coworker. I was like, "Does my coffee smell weird to you?" And he's like, "Yeah, what's wrong with it?" I was like, "Oh, it's beef broth."
But yeah, I love it that you're really not spending. So now I would have been spending $6 times four because I would get 4 pints. I guess I don't know. That would have been $24 for me before to get 4 cups times 4 containers of that. That's what I'll get from a whole chicken. And so yeah, you're right. It takes more work. But once I know, okay, every Sunday is when I make the whole chicken and then I let the broth sit overnight in the Instapot.
Mhm.
So there's like, you don't
Well, and
really
the
do anything.
important thing is finding ways to make it like fit into your day rather than because yeah, it can feel like if I'm going to make all my own food, all I'm going to do is farm and
Mm-hmm.
cook. And we don't just farm and cook. Um but it's also our job and we loved doing a lot of these things beforehand, so it's our hobbies too. But we have it so down that it's just part of life. Our kids are involved in it. My daughter's starting a loaf of bread, my son's processing milk. I'm pulling the chicken carcass out from the night before that's been, cooking all night. And I'm standing there chatting with them and pulling off the pieces we can eat, taking the pieces we can't eat, and all the like fat and veggies and the in between that goes on another plate because then I turn around and feed that to like my dogs or my chickens. And it's like every piece of that is getting used. And it's not even taking that much out of our day. It's just part of our morning where we're all in the kitchen together working and doing our thing.
I need to do that. So I do feed my dog a raw diet. And what I did
Hmm.
with the carcass and vegetables, I pounded them all up and I gave that to him. And then he was like throwing up all over the place. I was like, oh my God, I took him to the vet and I'm like, I can't tell them what I did. Like, everybody knows you don't feed cooked bone. But like in my mind, it was mashed. And I think it was just so rich for him that it was. But I'm like, oh my
You know
God, I
what?
killed the dog.
Our
Everybody
dogs
told me
get,
don't feed him raw. And now they're going to think it's because I feed him a raw diet. Um,
oh no, we feed our dogs either raw or if we're cooking it, it's like just much better because we're a little like we're one step further. I grew up with a dad who was a hunting guide and a mom who was a taxidermist, so really nothing bothers me. So, and my kids either. So we have a freezer on the property that we call the dog food freezer. And we have a rule that no protein goes off the property. So if the little kids shoot a squirrel, it goes in the dog food freezer. If we watch the person in front of us hit a deer on the highway, we grab it and it goes in the dog food freezer. Um, if we have a piglet get stepped on, goes in the dog food freezer. And I mean, it's just, and so then like my daughter and her friend, they're, these two 16-year-old girls are out there dragging a whole deer. Her friend's from Alaska, so she's a little touched too, like us. And these two teenage girls out there in like, jean shorts and bikini tops are skinning a whole deer in the driveway and chopping it up and putting it in our like mixer to make dog food for our dogs. And we have a whole freezer. They take them and they like roll them flat in gallon bags and stack them. And that's our, that's how we feed our dogs all year.
so it's uncooked. then, right? You're just like, what are you putting in a grinder?
It's it's uncooked. Sometimes she'll cook it, sometimes she won't. Like they don't like organ meat. They're really picky. So my Instapot is now cannot be used for anything other than deer heart because once you cook deer heart in an Instapot, it doesn't go back.
See, my dog loves the heart, and that's been a cool homeschooling lesson for us too. So I get from the farm that I get the half cow and half pig from,
Mhm.
I will buy beef scraps and organs. And yeah, every month when I put together my dog's raw diet, I'm like, the other day, Colin and his friend were here. I'm like, you guys want to see a cow heart? So we're like analyzing it, flipping it over,
Mhm.
looking at the valves in it. I'm like, wow, this is the old me would have been so creeped out.
You know what? Last weekend we had the fire chief over for dinner. My husband's on the fire department. There's a new chief, so we wanted to have him over and get to know his family a little bit better. And we had a sow that we thought was in labor. And so we told our son, like he's 7 and they had a 10-year-old daughter and they raise pigs too. So we said, hey, do you guys want to go up and check and see how the sow's doing and let us know? And they come tromping back down there playing and, riding bikes and stuff on the way back down the hill from the barn. And I'm expecting piglets or no piglets. Like that was what I thought the answer was going to be. Oh no. He's like, well, she's laying down. She's breathing really heavy. He goes, I think I saw a contraction, but I couldn't count it out real well. He goes, but her vulva is really loose. And I got in there and I checked her for milk, but then there's no milk yet. So I don't think we're going to have any babies. And I was just like, completely shocked that that's what he said. But then I realized that's how we talk to each other
Mhm.
and one day he's going to have a job and he's going to know that his boss wants all the details like lined out like that. Not just nope, no
Or he'll
piglets. Well, but
be
is
the
she
or he'll be the boss and he'll be like, you got to go give me some more details.
right? But he knew that if he just said no piglets, I would ask, is there milk? Is she showing milk yet? So he climbed in the pen with our probably 700-pound sow to check and see if she was expressing milk or not.
Oh, that's awesome. Awesome.
It was a pretty proud mama moment.
Where All right, where do you recommend that people start with if they want to check out, your curriculums or just learn about homesteading in general? If they're like, I want to live a healthy lifestyle, I just have no idea how to begin or where to begin. What would you recommend?
Um, well, I mean, of course, come to my website because right at the top it says I want to do the curriculum or I want to start a homestead. And that can walk you down right down the steps of either, buying the curriculum for your family. It breaks it down by age and subject. If you're wanting to start a homestead, it talks about, which animals to start with, how to make plans, how to start a homestead business. I love teaching about that because that's just fun. I mean, our homestead business partially supports our family.
Okay.
But one thing that people really love, and I'm just gonna have it here, is my introduction to homestead science.
Ooh.
And this is a full year agriculture science, but the focus is the small scale farming, the self-sufficiency, and it's comparable to my college intro to ag class, except it actually teaches things like herbalism and stuff. So probably about 25% of these that I sell are to adults that are wanting to start their own homesteads and just don't know where to start.
Yeah.
Because it's a really clean overview of 18 different topics on starting a homestead and how they all connect together.
Oh, I love that. That's so cool. What about regenerative farming? Like that
It
seems to be the
kind of
thing.
covers, it is, yeah. It covers a little bit of everything in there because I feel like people need to make the right decision for their families. And I actually said that to Joel Salatin one time. He goes, does it teach permaculture? And I said, well, I think it needs to teach all of it. It's not my job to tell them how to do it. And then I was like, did I just say that to Joel Salatin? But my thought was, is I wanted to teach common sense and problem solving and not just one topic.
Yeah.
And so it does talk about what regenerative farming is. And in each chapter, it'll give like little tips on like, this is a way to make this work together for permaculture and that type of stuff. But yeah, I mean, even for us, like with our pastured pigs, we're regenerative farmers. So
And so, can you just break down real quick, like what that means?
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different aspects, using your animals to work the
Mhm.
land, not using pesticides or fungicides or things like that, using natural ones or natural fertilizers like compost and bone meals and other things like that. Joel uses the method where his meat birds and his chicken tractors are following the cows through the pasture when they want to break land. In the brush or something, the pastured pigs go in first and they just clean that up. And then the next year grass grows and you can run your cows on the same piece and the chickens are coming in behind it and they're eating the bugs. So then your cows aren't getting parasites and it's just this whole process. And like for us, I mean, our pig herd, because we have a closed herd, like, and if new animals come onto my property, they're quarantined and stuff. I haven't had to worm my large pigs in like 6 years. I do, however, worm every piglet that goes off my property because every animal has somewhat of a worm load because they're on dirt and stuff. And when piglets are weaned and then transported, their immune systems just tank. So then
Interesting.
I tell people, like the withdrawal period on a wormer is about 2 weeks, and I would quarantine any animal that came on my property for 2 weeks anyways. So there you go.
All right, awesome. Yeah, and that is to also help renew the soil and get
Mhm.
nutrients back in it. So yeah, and it's confusing for me too because like I told my husband like, all right, can you give me a spot for a garden, but don't till, and he's like, what?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, and that's why I teach all like aspects of it. Because like if you go out there and you have a hard pan piece of ground, you're not planting anything in it until you till it.
Right.
Um, so you can reduce how much you till. You can like, just till in one spot so you can get the plants down. Or if you want to wait to do that spot over a couple of years, you can be putting mulch over it and let it getting soft and stuff. But yeah, you're not going to just start a garden without tilling it. It's just
Yeah, he's like,
it's not
Cheryl,
possible.
you're crazy. You got it.
Yeah.
So
But
he did.
now, like our garden beds, I haven't put soil in them in a few years. My husband just put leaves on top of them and grass clippings and all those things, and I'll just be kind of planting straight into that without disrupting anything as I'm putting my garden
Okay.
in. North Idaho, my garden's going in this weekend, so
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
I
late.
mean everything's like a foot tall. It's just been growing in my
Okay.
mudroom, so.
Oh, fun. Oh, Kody, thank you so much for joining me today. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you? And I will save this live to both of our, well, I'll save it to mine. You can save it to yours too, I believe. And I will also re-release this as a podcast episode, which can be listened to on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all those good places.
Um, Yeah, well, I really appreciate you having me on. When you started your podcast, I don't even know, a while back, but I was like, man, I love what she's doing and the conversation that she's having that I think just like needs to be had. And so I was very honored when you
Oh,
invited me on.
thank you.
Um, so yeah, you can find me at thehomesteadeducation.com. I have my own podcast where, I teach about homesteading, homeschooling, personal growth, business. I have guests on all the time. I spend most of my time on Instagram, but I'm on all the social medias. And yeah, you can find me there and find all my products or one of my speaking events.
Awesome. Thank you, Kody. Thank you for all the
Thank
work you're putting in.
you. I really appreciate it. Have a good
You
one.
too.